So welcome back to what's going to be our main focus here. In this video, we're going to be doing portraits. We are going to be showing you how to make portraits. So we're going to turn this photo of Kristen Stewart from this to this. And we are essentially going to be creating it. So I've already created an eye here. You can see there is an eye here, but I'm going to be showing you again how to create these other eyes. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how I created this eye, but I'm going to be doing it on this one so that you would see it very well. All right, before we start, I'm going to jump over to the paint section, and I'm just going to be outlining out a few things. First, of course, an eye, when I'm drawing a rough idea of an eye, it's like this. Okay, so again, this, for example, the part I'm going to start with, all right? And then I'm going to go over to this section here. So in the video, you may not know the work format that I'm going through, but the idea is I'm going to begin with this part, and then I'm going to go to the inner section here, okay? And then I'll go to this one in here, right? And then I'll put in the fillers, like adding details to this part, like for example, the tilde here, maybe this section here that outlines the shadows. So we shall begin with the eyes, and the eyes will be first with the eyebrows and stuff like that. And then we shall move on maybe to like the mouth, okay? Then we shall have, we shall also discuss the ideas of creating the mouth, and then the base shape. So like the face base shape, I just call it base shape, okay? And then we shall move to, because on the first base shapes, then we shall explore the ideas of blending, all right? Blending. So the aim is for you to know how to create. By the end of these videos, you'll be able to know how to create the eyes, the mouth, face base shape, blending shapes, all right? And then detailing, all right? So you'll be detailing, like adding very, very subtle features that are unique to each individual. And I'll be showing you principles. There is no single thing that works for all, but I'll be showing you principles that you would use and you would apply to various images that you'll be working against. Okay, we are actually going now to start with the eyes. Again, as you may see, I've already told you now I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it the right eye, because I've already created the left eye. I'm going to create the eye section. Let me just call it the right eye. And then I'm going to be moving on to get the pen tool so that I can create this right eye. But let me zoom in by Z and then drag it to zoom in like that. And then you go to the pen tool over there on the right, and then get your pen tool, click to make a first point. Now, if you don't know how to use a pen tool, I will show you. Just let me know in the comment section. So you're going to click and you make another point on the left, click and then drag, you make this point, but then we need it to be a stroke, so we change it over there. Okay, so over here, it's where we change the pen tool. If you want to, let me say, if you want to change from the stroke, the fill to the stroke, you do it over here, right? So the pen tool is here, and that's what we're using. Now you're clicking and dragging. When you're clicking and dragging, you're essentially creating the shapes you want to align. There is no single way of creating an eye. Moving back quickly here, we know that the idea of an eye is basically like this, okay? So it's basically like two oval shapes like that, whatever. Some people's eyes can be like that. In other words, whatever. It doesn't really matter which kind. The idea is creating shapes that follow an eye pattern that is kind of similar to what you want to get. Okay, so that's what here you see that it does not convention. It's not. That's why I don't support people who normally just copy over this shape and then paste it on this and then flip it, because that it jeopardizes the integrity of the image, because the facial expression that builds up to form this face that we really need is very different. So this is not like a clone from this side to this side. Otherwise, we would have gotten a different value. Okay. So here now you can see that I'm going to try and tweak and make sure that this eye is working properly. So I don't like it now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly undo that. Just Ctrl Z on your keyboard, Ctrl Command Z, and you can do it again. Just make sure that you align the outlines of the eye as close as possible as you can. So let me be like, I like this, okay? So if, for example, I like that, now the next part is I'm going to move on to the cornea, all right? So when creating the cornea, we're going to be, essentially what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to explain it to you here. I'm going to first of all create a circle like this. So here we shall use a circle-based shape or anything like that. And I'm going to duplicate this so that the commands that I will be using, maybe just duplicating it, okay? And then I'm going to be creating the inner sections. So you essentially see them as stars like this, okay? So you're going to see how I'm going to do it. But what that is going to do is going to blend this. I'm going to try and blend these shapes with the inner section, okay, and adding a couple of things as I'll be explaining. It will create essentially an eye that I'm going to be working with. And then the intersection here, the intersection will kind of form that circle thing, because when you know an eye once like this, normally there is that small thing that, whatever they call it. So that is what I'm going to do there, and then there is the light section will be around there, okay? But then these details here, which you'll be seeing, the ones that are unique to all individuals, are the ones that will kind of add detail and definition to the eye. So they're very, very, very important, and look out for those. Again, as you may see now, what I'm going to do is going to go and create. Let me first lock that layer and then go to the shape tool. So here is the shape tool, and I'm going to look for the circular shape tool, and I'm going to be creating a circle that originates from the center. But to do this, to make a circle from the center, you have to hold down Alt and Control plus Alt, and so that you can get a circle that originates from the center. But before that, I'm going to set its gradient, because as you may see here, we have, for example, an eye here, an eye section here, for example. This eye section has shades of yellow, and then shades of green, and then shades of black, and then dark green, so, and then white there. So to make this effect here, okay, we're going to try and first of all use greens that come from a dark green to a light green, and then we shall be overlaying some shapes on top, plus different colors to get up the effect. But first of all, now we want here, what we're basically doing is we are getting this shape here, and we are using it to make this effect that comes from dark green to light green. Okay, so that's what you see here, that it's happening with me trying to find colors that I want. You can also use your own colors, you don't have to worry. So remember, that once you're making shapes, look over here and see that that these basically both of these are working together. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that, for example, when you're making that outline, you don't need this. So you're going to remove that, and you're going to imagine that your gradient comes from the center and it raises out. So it's, for example, light in the center section and forms kind of like a vignette outside. So to do that, you have options here where there is a radial option and a linear option. So you want to choose the radial option. So doing that, you're setting the gradient like that, putting the lighter color on one end and a bright color on the other end, a darker color on the other end. Okay. So then, so here we now have basically what I've been talking about. So the next part, when that is done, you can tweak it by clicking Alt, and once you drag on those things or whatever, those controls, you can expand out and get more than one by just moving your cursor over there, and then you click Alt and drag. And once you click Alt and drag, you form additional colors that you can add as many and form as many gradients as you want. So basically that you can use it to control the gradient if you want it to transition very fast or very slow, basically. So clicking Ctrl and Alt, you make a circle like that originates from the center. And you essentially have a color which has dark on the outside and is light on the inside. So if you don't like that, you can always tweak it just by doing, as you may see on the screen. I'm just double clicking on that. So here you just come over here and then you double click here, and once you double click, you then go over and then it will bring you here, and then you select whichever colors you want. Okay, but again, it's better you just play around with it and find a suitable way to represent what you are illustrating. Okay, so if you're happy with that, you can lock that layer so that you don't move it around. And now, but before we lock it, we're going to copy it. So just Control Copy on your keyboard, whatever, and then you're going to. Okay, we can do a couple of things first before we lock it. Before we lock the layer, we can now go back to the shape tool here, and you're going to select the star that you see right there. So you're going to create the inner detailing, and then you're going to copy and paste, like kind of duplicating it. Whatever. Okay, so to create the star again, just once you click over here, okay, just come and once you get the star shape tool here, just come over in here and then just click once, and then you come up with this radio, so with this dialog box where you can specify the details that you want, and I've put them, as you may see them on the screen, with a radius of 5 on the outside and 25. So as you may see, we now have a huge star lining like thing around, and then we need to scale it down. So we're going to scale that star down. Sorry. So what we're going to do now, we're going to come over to the scale tool, and the scale tool, when you click on the scale tool, just come and click and then drag. Okay, you drag down like that so that it's kind of down on inside that. So it's the same color as the background, so that's why you can't see it, but you can now just click over there and change the color to whatever you want. And once you remove it, you will find that it's now a different color. Okay, so you can change the colors to whichever color you want. Okay, so I'm going to just put it, let me give it that, for example, and then just adjust a little bit to make sure it's kind of matching, and then you will see that it's now visible. And the next part is essentially, again, making tweaks, and then you're going to, for example, if you're not happy with that, you can as well just go back and tweak it again to make it kind of subtle a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to just now lock the first layer and then highlight the second layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of the same layer, the same shape, that starlight thing, but I'm going to scale it down to like 75. So how you do that, you just come over and then make sure that here you click here to highlight that layer, and then come over here and double click on the scale tool here. So once you double click on the scale tool, it will bring up this scale pattern here, and what you want to do is scale it down to a certain percentage. In this case, I'm going to scale it down to 70 to 75. So, and then just click copy. So don't click make. So once, if you click copy, so that it will make a copy of the original, if that makes sense to you. So it will make a copy, and then you're going to rotate by clicking R on your keyboard, or you can just hover over there and get those, but I'm going to just rotate it by clicking R on the keyboard, and then after you just click and drag like that. So once you click and drag, it will rotate it, provided you're on R, and then lock, you're going to remove them to form that effect. So you can do this as much and as long as you want. I'll be exploring more techniques with varied eyes in future videos, so make sure you check those out. And with that, now I'm going to again scale it down one more time. You can do it one more time. This time we're scaling it at 100 because we want this same shape, this same size of star gaze, or we call it starlight, star blah blah. You just the same shape, and I'm going to just make a copy of it. So you can actually preview it there if you want, but I'm going to make a copy of it. Okay, so just make a copy, and it will make another copy on top of the original, and then again do the same thing, R on your keyboard and rotate. So you can do that as many times as you want to just come up with the original, with something similar to the original image. So this kind of makes it much easier. So with that, you've kind of made those inner details of an eye. Okay, the first those linings that you see in an eye, but you don't really understand how they are made. So with little practice, you'll be able to come up with them with an understanding of how they work. And I'll be exploring other techniques in future videos on how you can. And as a result, you will see that in the center there, in the center section, you also have your darker, whatever, cornea, whatever they call it. Okay. So that basically we shall be doing in future videos. We shall be doing some more detailed, more complicated ways of creating it. This eye it has less details because it's not very sharp. So I'm going to leave it at this for the meantime. Okay. So if all that is finished, now the next part we're going to go is to lock them, unlock the background layer now, and we're going to make copies of it so that we can add the details that will make it look like an eye. So they will give it a sense of depth, for example, or they will give it a sense of to be like a lens, for example, and that's very, very important, as you may have seen in the left eye. So just click copy and then paste. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, standard, right? So we're going to move it over there, and then click A on your keyboard to highlight the direct selection tool, and then click on the points and delete them as you're seeing in the video. And then make sure you change this area here by clicking to a stroke section. So once you change that, now we're going to go over to the stroke section on your right panel right there, and make sure that let's just reposition it there, and then click down there to show options, and now change its caps like that from capped so that it's kind of rounded. What you're going to create here is a lighting pattern, right? So we're going to create something that makes a shadow, because we are showing that light is coming like that. So we're going to create a light section here. In essence, it will be like it will be showing that light is coming here. All right, so we're going to change its color by double clicking on this area here, and then you come over here and you select your specified color, which is that color that I've chosen. You can choose any color that you want. If you're not happy with that, you can always change it. And now, once you're happy with it, you can just come over, click the V on your keyboard, and then move it over to the eye and reposition it just as you see in here. So we're now going to blur it, so that you go to Effect, Gaussian Blur, and just add a blur of 0.9, and you can preview it before if you're happy with that, and then it's okay. If you're not happy with it, then you can change the blur accordingly. So a higher blur, so as you go higher, 0.91, 1.1, it kind of blurs more, and a lower blur just pixelates it. Okay. So again, here you will see that it's kind of subtle, but like if you don't like the color, again, you can always change it. Okay. So occasionally you want to zoom in and out so that you have an idea of how your image is coming in. So again, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to paste, to copy and paste this initial image that we made, the initial circle that we made. And now this time we're going to change. We're going to just make it like dark on the inside. So we're going to like create a lens. Again, it's the same principle that we used in the beginning for creating this initial image. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the same thing, going to the gradient section. We're going to just work with two colors, that is essentially black and white. Okay. So what you're going to do, just delete all those by clicking on them and deleting them. So here now we're going to make this a different color, all right? So we're going to give it, let's say, a color that tends towards white. That can be gray, and then this one we're going to give it a darker color. So that in theory you're going to create something that is lighter on the inside and darker on the outside. So now you can again decrease the colors as much as you want, but we're going to change the transparency to multiply. So once you change the transparency to multiply and move it over, so what that does is that the colors that are in black won't be transparent, but the colors that are in white, anything that is 50% gray, will become kind of transparent. So like white will be, it has some gray components in it, so it will kind of tend to be transparent, and then move towards the colors that are non-transparent, and thus creating some sort of let me say a lens-like thing. Okay, so which creates a detail in the eye. Okay, so as you can see, the eye now is not the same as the eye on the left. So what we want to do, you can always tweak it and make sure that it comes together similar by, maybe you can adjust its transparency, for example, like that, but don't put it to 0, okay? Or you can leave it at that and just change the colors like this. Okay, so you can make this, for example, less gray or like that. So after a couple of tweaks, I have something similar to this. Now, the next part is I'm going to try and create the inner part, that white area, that majority of white area, is what's going to be the next area for this. Okay, now I'm going to create the inner part again. We're going to do the same thing. The circle, we're going to create this bigger circle in from the center, like we created the first circle, but it's going to cover everything, and that's going to create. That is going to create the inner part that we want now. That inner white part, majority white area. Again, as you may see, we're going to send it to the back. And how you do that is you just go to Object and then Arrange, Send to Back. You're going to send it to the back, all right? Now, what we're going to do is we shall be later using it as a clipping mask to form the inner section. That's why we're sending it to the back. But you're going to highlight, you remember that first shape we started with. You're now going to click it and highlight it and bring it to the front. Again, you do the same Object, Transform, Bring to Front. So you just, first of all, don't use the original one, because you're going to need it. You're going to make a couple of those. So you're going to just kind of copy, paste in front. The way you do that, copy is Ctrl+C, paste in front is Ctrl+F. So you copy, you paste in front. So you make something like that. So now the one that you've copied is the one you're going to highlight, and then go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. So you're going to bring to the front, and then what you're going to do is click, as in select all of them. Okay. Once you select all of them, then you go to, again, you're going to go back and now create what we call a clipping mask, right? So the clipping mask is going to be made by the shape tool that we made in the beginning. So if that's not on front, then you'll have a problem. So again, we're going to go to clipping mask. First of all, bring to front. Okay, so then select everything and then go to Object, clipping mask, make, and then you have made that first part of the eye. Okay, so there, once you zoom back in, you realize that you have something, but it's not yet done. Okay, we still have some detailing to do. So you may see that it's just so flat, and so we need first of all to push it back in now. The way you do that, you're going to go and get, you're going to basically walk around. Again, let's first lock this layer. Go and get your pen tool, and now just, let's first make that lining there. So this one, you just trace around and then make it white, and then blur it to make that, that white thing that shows in the eye. Okay, so just use that. So you're going to go and then blur, and then make it, just change its blurriness to maybe 0.9, 1.5, whatever you want. And then turn them back on. So you can actually also bring it into the clipping group, so that it's kind of inside, and it works very well like that. Okay. So you can now decrease it if you don't like it. If you don't like how much is showing, like this one is, you can always go in there and try to kind of make it a little bit more subtle. So that you can do in a number of ways. And one of the ways you can do is by decreasing its, you can decrease basically its transparency. So you always turn off that. We don't want that outline that we made at the beginning to be showing in our eyes, okay? So now again, we're going to copy and paste in front. Ctrl C, Ctrl F to paste that first part that we made, okay? Because now we're going to make shadows, some sort of shadows that are made by the eyelashes or the eyelids. So just click your pen tool and then just drag, as you may see here, so that it just outlines there just like that, okay? Just like that. Now the method you're going to use here is kind of a little bit different. Now when you're going to work with areas like, now I'm going to explain a principle that is very, very important in this kind of work that we're doing here. I'm just going to draw something simple here, okay? Just going to draw something, right? It's going to be nothing, it's just something, okay? Now, this thing, okay, it's just nothing, right? It's just, let me remove its stroke. Okay, let me give it, for example, a color here, right? Let me give it red. All right. Now, in the principle that we are doing here, the principle that I'm going to explain to you is very, very important. When you have something like this, for example, and you have colors, okay, you may want to, for example, create a shape, another shape here, okay? But the way you could do that, for example, you can copy. Let's first select the shape and copy and paste in front. And then the shape that we have pasted in front, we can change it to this color, okay? Now, of course, you can see them down here, that this is a shape now that we are working with. So you can lock this layer, okay? So we're now going to try and create something, anything, okay? But it's going to be blending in. Let me imagine something that comes like here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another shape that comes like this, and it cuts in this shape like that, okay? And then it cuts here like this, and then it comes down, and then I circle it back out there like this, okay? But what I'm going to do is, because I need to create, essentially what I need to do is to create this shape here, okay? A shape like this, okay? So what I'm going to do is to get these two shapes here, this shape and this shape, and then I'm going to intersect them. So by doing this, I go to the Pathfinder and intersect. So it's created me a shape, so I don't have to go through the work of retracing exactly that. So that's principle number one. Then now the most important thing that I'm going to do, if this shape is a different color from this shape, but I want these shapes to blend very well, right? To blend seamlessly. There are ways you can do this, okay? You could try and maybe use let me say a gradient, okay, and be like, let me change this color this color to this color, okay? So when you have this, it forms a very, very hard lining, right? But when I need to change this, I need to blend them seamlessly. Someone may be like, you can just go and then create a gradient. Okay, let's try creating a gradient and then we see what happens. So when you come and create probably a linear gradient, okay, we give it, say, let me give it this color, okay, let me put this color here, okay, and this color there, okay, as in it's extremely hard to create a gradient, even if you try and kind of go get the gradient tool, okay, and try to blend them in like in a position. It's very, very hard. Even if you come and bring this to 0, so the way you bring this is, let's delete this one, for example. We click this one and then we bring it to 0, for example, okay? Then when we click view, we shall have this. You still have this hard lining, right? So it kinda does not work. So what do we do in this case? Let's go back to our color here, okay? Let's go back to our color. Well, let's use the color that we had started with, which is about that color. So if we wanted to blend these two shapes, how would we blend them now so that they blend in seamlessly? So there are very many ways you can do this now. You can, but this is the way that is very, very important now. You copy, you get this shape that you want to blend, then you copy and paste it in front, and that's Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F. Paste it in front. Okay. Now we're going to make one of these shapes smaller than the other. So let's make the lower one. We're going to first of all lock it, and then we come and create. We just click A to make the direct selection tool, and then we come and just bring this one inside like that. Okay, just bring it inside like this. Okay, and then again, if you want it, for example, to start from here and then go here, then you don't need to actually do this. But in most cases, you can also bring this like this. Okay. Now you have to make sure that you look out for certain things that I'll show you in a few minutes what I mean. But just make sure that, for example, the lines don't overlap. So when you click Z here and we bring these lines here, so you will see that these lines kind of are very, very close to each other. So what you want to do there, bringing your direct selection tool, you can bring them back like that so that they will be forming a smooth blend. Okay. So now what we want to do, we now want to again make this kind of the same as that. So we bring it down like this. Just click and drag down. So we now have two shapes. Okay. Now these two shapes are the same color. Now we're going to make this shape. We're going to change its color. For example, the base, the downer shape, the bigger shape, we're going to make its transparency 0. Okay. And we're going to now make the transparency of the upper shape 100, but then you select both of them now at the same time, selecting both of them at the same time, and then you go to, you're now going to blend them. Okay, so when you go to object and you go to blend, you first, if you're doing it for the first time, you go to blend options, as in first time of opening the document. Okay, you go to blend options and then you go to specified steps. Specified steps, you can give a specified step of up, I don't know up to how many, but you can give about up to, even you can give 300 if you want. Specified steps of 300 and click OK. And then go back to object again and then blend and then make. So what this does, it's blending this image seamlessly versus what we did in the beginning. So you will see now that you have something that is kind of there and it's not there. Okay, so you understand what I mean, right? So let's go back again. For example, we are here. Okay. Let me put this one, for example, let me imagine it's now like this. Okay. Again, I'm going to go to this base shape, the bigger shape, and bring its transparency down to 0. Okay. When you bring its transparency down to 0, you can actually bring also this one. Let me zoom in quickly. and then bring this one, this shape here, just bring it over here, and then decrease this. Just like that, so that it's kind of on the line, okay? So what we now have, again, we have two shapes. So we have the smaller shape and the bigger shape. So to blend them to this overall shape, what you're going to do is you're going to click this one and then this one together, as that's by clicking the first one, and then Control, and then click the next. So it selects both of them at the same time. And then you're going to go to Object, okay, and then Blend, and then Blend Options if you're doing it for the first time. If you're doing it for the next time, it doesn't really matter because it's already set, so you can click OK. Then again, go back to Object, Blend, Make. So you see now it's created a seamless shape, like it's blending into the original shape down below, okay? So now this creates an illusion of like, is this part bigger than this? So for example, if you get all these shapes, for example, okay, and let's use this and rotate it. Let's just put it like that. You will see that, for example, it creates an illusion of maybe like this part is higher, it's like more close to the camera than this part. Okay, so it's creating that depth, whereas when you remove it, it's just a simple, plain, boring shape. Okay, so again, you can do this. This is a very, very important thing to know in this, because you will use it all the time, every time. Okay, so maybe now you may not have understood it, but don't worry. I'm going to be explaining to you again how you can do it in future videos. I'm going to be showing you. Even in this video, by the end of this portrait session, you'll be done understanding. So that's the step we're going to right now. What I've done here, for example, I'm going to create, I want to create this small lining here, okay? But I don't want to waste time doing this line, so that's why I've jumbled it all over and brought it back here, because I know I'm going to use the intersection section in the Pathfinder panel, just like I've shown you in the image that I've just been demonstrating. Okay, so now we're now going to bring one of those earlier, the first shapes we made, and select it together with the first shape, and then go to the Pathfinder and intersect it just like I did in the beginning, and then change it to the fill layer. Okay, so now we're going to do what I've just done now. We're going to copy and paste in front. Okay, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F, paste in front. And now we're going to make the lower shape 0, transparent I mean. And we're now going to make the smaller, the top shape smaller, okay, than the upper shape. So click it, then A on your keyboard to highlight the direct selection tool, and then just slightly push it back inside. Okay, so when you push it back inside, make sure that it does not over exceed the limits of the upper shape, because then that will create miserable blends. But then just kind of bring it, adjust those handles so that to your suitable liking. Now if you like it, now click it and Alt-click on the first shape again to select both of them at the same time. Go to the Object and you go to the Blend section. Blend. If you're doing it for the first time, you're going to go to the Blend options first. Okay, and then change it to specified steps of 250, and then click OK. Then you go back to the Objects and then Blend and Make. So that will make a blend that is seamless, and then you add a little bit of Gaussian blur. The Gaussian blur will help to kind of make a subtle image there so that it's not too much in your face. And now again, you can change it and put it below in the clipping mask so that it's affected by the clipping mask. So you can see that now the eye is kind of inside now, right? It's not like on the face outside like this. So you can see the difference that that's making, right? But again, you can decide to change its opacity, decrease it a little bit to maybe 70% so that it's kind of subtle. So you're creating detail, you're creating depth by doing this. So as you can see now, how far you've reached, you've now created almost every part of the eye. We're going to decrease that section as well because it's too much, like it's showing too much. So we can kind of decrease it a little bit. Okay. So that, for example, is how we're going to be working with the eye. Now, there is one last part where we need to create the tilde or that eye drop. So again, then the shape we're going to do is we're going to create that section like this, just around, to create something around. Okay, again, we're going to use the first shape we created to make an intersection because we don't want to follow them around. Imagine I want to create something here. Okay, I want to create something, the tilde eye section here. Okay, so instead of me coming and trying to retrace this part and here, which is time wasting, what I do is I'm going to just go here and get the pen tool here and then click. Okay, let me just first of all copy and paste it so you will be able to see it clearly. When I'm going to put copy and paste in front, that's Ctrl+C, Ctrl+F. So I'm going to make this, now I'm going to make this, the upper one black, like this, move that section. Now I'm going to create the eye here. I'm going to just come over here like this, and then do this, essentially what I've been doing there. Okay, and then I'm going to click this section and another of the eye, select both of them, and then come to the pathfinder and then intersect. So you will see that it has now created a shape here. Okay, you see that? Okay, let me change its color. So you will see that it has now created that shape. That's the same thing I've used to do. So in the first part, again, I came here and I did this. Okay, but I didn't want to trace this same lining here. So I just went over and just did something. Okay, and then again, I came over and clicked it and then click on the layer that I did on the first part that I copied and pasted, and then came to the pathfinder and did that again. So when I turn them back on, all of them, you will see that I've now created that part. And again, if you change it, you'll see that now that you have that clear part. You understand what I'm doing? I hope you do. Okay. So with that being said, so going back again, I'm creating that eye drop by that same method. So again, you will see that I'm trying to do that. So essentially what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to just copy and then paste in front in case I need to. And then I'm going to highlight both of them at the same time by clicking Alt and selecting both of them and then intersect on the Pathfinder panel. So again, that will help me to make this shape. So then I can get my eyedropper tool and then select a color that is going to suit the shape, which in this case is the pink color. So change that from a stroke to a fill, and now you see that it's black, but I don't need it to be black. I need it to be a little bit pink. So to do that, again, I'm going to just, before I go into the blends, so here what I'm doing is essentially just doing that same procedure that I showed you of creating that kind of shape where I'm going to blend both of them. Okay, so just also try to follow through, because here it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to push them back, blend them in, and then so that they blend seamlessly into the white background that they are on. Okay. So down below is transparency of 0. Okay, and then go to the object, then blend. If you're doing it for the first time, you know the drill, it's blend option. But if you're doing it for the second time, you don't need that. Just go to make, and there you have a blend that is seamless. Okay. Now the tilde, I'm just going to make it that color, okay, so that it's like the color of the eye. All right. So we shall be now turning back our eyes on in a minute. So now you can see there the tilde is right there. Again, you can bring it inside the eye, so that when you bring it inside the eye section and put it maybe in the clipping mask as well, or whatever, so that under the so that it's not so much outside, it's not very, very disturbing. And again, if you find that it's too much for you, you can always try to just decrease its opacity, right? But for the most part, you're not going to require to do much if you get your colors correct. Okay, so you're going to turn off those outlines that you made in the beginning. So with that, you now have your eye done and ready. So this is how you create your eye sections, and now you can see with the eyes. Now you can see that we have finished the first part of this video, creating the eyes. It's been a very long one. Again, with the eyes, the next part is going to be like the subtle details, like the eyelashes and stuff like that. So stick around for that. And also, if you want to see most of these illustrations, I'll be posting them over on my Instagram, so feel free to go check them out. They'll be there first before any other before I even make a video. So if you want to see them first, the name is jamesk_Ssekamatte. That's my Instagram handle, and you'll be able to find out, like, you'll be able to see them before I even post them. Okay, take care.